CEO hears homeless girl speak 9 languages. What he does next leaves. Everyone stunned. The piercing winter wind sliced through the streets of Manhattan like a knife, pushing hurried pedestrians into their coats and scarves. Noah Carrington, CEO of a global tech conglomerate, stepped out of his chauffeured black car. A Bluetooth headset clipped to his ear. He barked instructions to his assistant as he crossed toward the marble steps of the World Innovation Summit, not noticing the figure curled beside a steaming subway grate just feet away. But then something stopped him. "Non, je n'ai pas mangé aujourd'hui," the voice said softly. French. Noah's brow furrowed. He turned toward the voice, only to hear another line, this time in crisp Mandarin, then Russian, then German. A melody of languages flowing one after another from a small dirty bundle huddled on the sidewalk. He took a step closer. A young girl, maybe 10 or 11, sat cross-legged in a threadbare hoodie and ripped jeans. Her hands were raw, her cheeks flushed from the cold. She spoke quietly to herself, switching tongues mid-sentence like flipping radio stations. Her eyes were closed, as if she were somewhere far away. Noah crouched down slowly, his breath fogging in the air. "Hey," he said gently, his voice unusually soft. "Are you okay?" The girl opened her eyes, revealing an intense, almost haunted gaze. "I'm practicing," she said simply. "Practicing what?" She tilted her head. "Languages. I don't want to forget them." A strange chill moved through Noah, not from the cold, but from recognition. There was something about her, her cadence, her presence, that tugged at a memory he couldn't quite place. "How many do you know?" he asked, clearing his throat. 9. 10 if you count Latin, but no one speaks that anymore. She gave a shrug, like this was normal, like being a child fluent in more languages than most adults was just part of life on the street. Noah stared at her, incredulous. "Where did you learn them?" She looked past him. "My mum taught me before she disappeared." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. "What's your name?" "Lyra." He didn't move, didn't speak. That name hit him like a freight train. His daughter had picked that name for her imaginary friend before the accident, before she and her mother disappeared into a storm of secrets he was never allowed to untangle. And now, a girl with the same name, the same strange gift, was staring at him like she already knew him. He stood up slowly, heart pounding, 1,000 questions rushing through his mind. "Lyra, do you know your last name?" She hesitated. Then, "Not anymore. I had to forget it." The crowd swirled around them, oblivious. But Noah Carrington was frozen, caught in the eye of something far bigger than chance, and he had a feeling his entire world was about to change. Noah watched Lyra shiver as the December wind whipped down Fifth Avenue. Despite everything racing through his head, board meetings, investor calls, the speech he was supposed to give in 10 minutes, he pulled off his wool coat and draped it gently around her shoulders. She didn't flinch, didn't even seem surprised. "Where have you been staying?" he asked, trying to sound casual, though his throat tightened with every word. "Subway, mostly. Sometimes the library. They don't kick me out if I pretend to read." She looked up at him, her eyes startlingly clear. "You don't have to pretend to care. Most people don't." "I'm not pretending." He sat beside her, ignoring the curious glances of people walking past. "You said your mother disappeared." Lyra nodded. "She told me to hide one day. We were staying in this shelter and she woke me up in the middle of the night, said someone found us. She pushed me into a closet and told me not to make a sound." Her voice grew smaller. "She never came back." Noah stared at the girl, at her gaunt face and blistered hands, at the streak of resilience that somehow made her appear older than her years. "Do you remember anything else? A place? A name?" Lyra shrugged. "I don't try to remember anymore. It hurts too much. I just study. It's the only thing I can control." He looked down at the coat now wrapped around her tiny frame, the same coat he wore during the custody battle for his daughter, the one he lost when his ex-wife disappeared overseas, taking their child with her. There had been rumors, conflicting reports, Interpol searches that led nowhere. At some point, even he was forced to believe they were dead. But here was this girl, same name, same age his daughter would have been. And those eyes, and he had seen them before, in the mirror, in old photographs. There was no denying the resemblance. Noah's voice dropped. "What languages did your mother speak?" Lyra tilted her head. "Italian, Farsi, a little Czech. Why?" Noah's pulse thundered in his ears. His ex-wife had been a translator, fluent in 7 obscure dialects. It was the one detail that always amazed him, and the one she passed down to their daughter. "I want to help you," he said slowly. "Why?" Lyra narrowed her eyes. "Because I'm interesting, because you think you can save me?" "No," he replied, "because I think I already lost you once." She blinked. "What?" But before he could answer, a commotion erupted across the street. A sleek black car screeched to a halt, and 2 men in dark coats stepped out, scanning the area with urgency. Noah's instinct told him one thing immediately: they weren't here for him. Lyra saw them too, her face drained of color. She stood up so fast the coat fell from her shoulders. "I have to go," she whispered. "No, wait," but she was already running. Noah stood, coat in hand, heart hammering against his ribs as he watched Lyra disappear into the crowd. He turned instinctively toward the men who had exited the car. They were moving with purpose, speaking into earpieces, eyes sweeping the street like hawks. One of them looked directly at him for a second too long before moving on. He couldn't stand still. Without thinking, he darted after Lyra, weaving through tourists and businessmen and mothers with strollers. She was fast, her small figure darting between people with practiced ease, but he kept her in sight, the dark braid bouncing against her back, the thin legs moving like pistons. She cut into an alleyway between a deli and a bookstore. Noah followed, nearly slipping on a patch of ice. "Lyra!" he called out. No answer. He reached the corner and found the alley empty. "Damn it," he whispered, scanning the trash bins, the fire escapes, the closed doors. Then a faint sound, a whimper, from behind a stack of broken pallets. He approached slowly. "It's me. It's okay." Lyra peeked out, her face pale and guarded. "They've been following me for months. Sometimes I think they know where I sleep." "Who are they?" "I don't know. They never speak. Just stare. One time, one of them tried to grab me. I bit him and ran." Noah crouched beside her. "You can't keep running. You need protection." She shook her head. "People who try to help me end up getting hurt." "I'm not just anyone," he said firmly. "I can make you disappear, safely. But I need to know everything." Lyra's lip quivered. "My mom had a journal. She said it was the only proof. I've kept it hidden." "Where is it?" She hesitated. "I'll show you. But we have to go now. If they saw me..." Noah stood. "Then let's move." He led her back to his car, still idling at the curb. His driver blinked in surprise as he opened the rear door for the girl. "She's with me," Noah said. Lyra climbed in, eyes scanning the street nervously. The 2 men were gone, but she didn't relax until the car pulled away from the curb and melted into traffic. Noah sat beside her, silent, unsure of what he had just stepped into. The weight of the moment settled over him. This child might be the daughter he thought was lost forever, or she might be something even more complicated. "What if this is a mistake?" he asked aloud, not to her but to himself. Lyra didn't look at him. "It's not," she said softly. "I know who you are." He turned sharply. "You do?" "I know your voice. My mom used to play your interviews when she missed you." Noah froze, breath caught in his chest. A million forgotten fragments of a life he'd buried came rushing back all at once. And suddenly, he wasn't sure if he was rescuing Lyra or if she was rescuing him. The car wound its way uptown, gliding past traffic lights and snow-dusted sidewalks. Lyra sat curled in the corner, hands tucked under her arms for warmth, eyes scanning the city like a map she knew by heart. Noah couldn't stop watching her. The way she tilted her head when thinking, the habit of tapping her fingers silently. These weren't just coincidences. These were pieces of someone he once knew, etched into muscle memory. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. "I have an apartment on Central Park West," Noah replied. "Secure, private, you can clean up, eat something warm. Then we'll talk about the journal." Lyra gave a short nod, still not quite trusting, but no longer running. The building's doorman, accustomed to discretion, opened the door with a glance, not asking about the child wrapped in Noah's coat. The elevator ride was silent, except for the hum of machinery and Lyra's soft breathing. Inside the penthouse, she paused in the entryway, staring up at the vaulted ceilings, the massive windows looking out over the park. She didn't move farther, as if afraid to soil the pristine floors. "You're safe here," Noah said. "Come on." He led her into the guest bathroom, laying out towels and a change of clothes from a storage drawer. "Take your time." She closed the door gently behind her. While she bathed, Noah paced the living room, trying to collect his thoughts. If this was his daughter, his Lyra, then everything had changed, not just personally, but legally, emotionally, morally. And if she wasn't? If he was being pulled into a deception he couldn't yet see? Still, his gut whispered a truth his brain hadn't caught up to. He felt it. She was his. Lyra emerged 10 minutes later, hair damp, face scrubbed, wearing a sweatshirt that hung from her frame and leggings far too long. But it was her eyes, clear now, no grime masking their sharpness, that hit him hardest. They were her mother's eyes, but the intensity behind them, that was his. He motioned her to the kitchen. "Hungry?" She nodded. "Starving." He set a bowl of soup in front of her. She ate slowly at first, cautiously, like she couldn't believe it was real. Then faster, spoon after spoon, until she nearly emptied the bowl. "Can you tell me about the journal now?" Noah asked gently. Lyra wiped her mouth with the sleeve. "It's hidden in the library. I wrapped it in plastic and tucked it into the air vent behind the languages section. No one goes there." "What's in it?" "My mom's notes, her memories, names, dates, proof of who she really was and who I am." Noah felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Lyra looked up, her expression suddenly solemn. "But if we go back for it, they might be waiting. They watch places like that." Noah nodded slowly. "Then we need a plan. And I have people who can help." She leaned forward. "We have to get it, because it doesn't just tell who I am, it tells why they want me." That night, as the city outside quieted into a soft blur of headlights and wind, Noah stood alone by the floor-to-ceiling window, staring into the darkness. Lyra had fallen asleep on the couch, curled beneath a thick blanket, her hand still resting on the empty soup bowl. She looked peaceful now, younger, more fragile. But Noah knew that beneath that fragile appearance was a girl forged by survival, by loss, by secrets too deep for a child to carry. His phone vibrated. A message from Claire, his assistant. "Claire, security footage from outside the summit. The two men followed you for 3 blocks before disappearing. No plates on the vehicle." Noah's grip tightened. He typed back quickly. "Noah, alert Samir. I want full surveillance on this building and everyone entering. We're not taking chances." He set the phone down and moved quietly through the room, adjusting the thermostat, dimming the lights. He paused by Lyra's side. She murmured in her sleep, something in a language he didn't recognize, maybe Farsi, maybe Czech. He wondered if she dreamed in languages too. He didn't want to wake her, but there were questions that needed answers, especially about the journal. Early the next morning, Lyra stirred, blinking into the soft grey light spilling through the windows. "We go at first light," she said before he could even speak. He nodded. "I'll drive, but we won't go alone." By 7 a.m., the SUV rolled toward the New York Public Library, shadowed by an unmarked car with 2 of Noah's private security team inside. Lyra kept her hood up, her eyes alert. She guided him through the grand entrance, her feet moving with instinctive certainty. She didn't hesitate once. They reached the language section, tucked away on the 3rd floor. "Here," she whispered, pointing to a narrow metal vent behind a bookshelf. She dropped to her knees, pulling a small multi-tool from her sock. In seconds, the screws were loose, the grate removed. Noah crouched beside her. She reached inside, her arm disappearing up to the elbow. Then she pulled it out, a bundle wrapped tightly in layers of clear plastic. Noah helped her peel it open. The journal was old, the leather worn. Inside were pages dense with handwriting, sketches, maps, names, and, on the first page, an old photo. His heart stopped. It was a picture of his ex-wife, holding a newborn, a hospital bracelet on her wrist with the name Lyra Elise Carrington. Proof. His eyes burned. He turned the page. There were receipts from Istanbul, visas, letters written in code, photographs of men with red circles drawn around their faces. One of them, Noah recognized, a former business partner. Someone who had vanished after a hostile merger, someone who had reasons to want Noah. Gone. "What is this?" he whispered. Lyra looked at him. "It's not just about me," she said. "It's about you. They weren't after her. They were after you." And suddenly, everything he thought he understood began to unravel. The ride back from the library was silent, heavy with the weight of discovery. Noah kept one hand on the steering wheel, the other gripping the edge of the journal like it might vanish if he let go. Lyra sat beside him, staring out the window, her breath fogging the glass. Every so often, her eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, always watching. When they reached the building, his security team flanked them on both sides, alert, scanning. Noah nodded at Samir, his head of personal security, who gave a tight nod in return. "Everything's clear." "But I've seen that guy before," Samir muttered, glancing at the photo of the circled man in the journal. "He used to work logistics for one of your suppliers in Munich, disappeared 2 years ago." Inside the apartment, Noah laid the journal flat on the table, smoothing out the pages. Lyra hovered close, her small fingers tracing the corners of the photo like it was a sacred relic. "She wrote everything down," Lyra murmured. "Every time we had to move, every time someone followed her, she wrote it here." Noah flipped to a page marked with a red tab. The handwriting slanted across the paper in quick, urgent strokes. "If you're reading this, Noah, it means I couldn't protect her anymore. They know who she is and they'll use her to get to you." His breath caught. The ink was smudged in places, as if tears had stained the words. Lyra looked up at him. "Do you believe me now?" "I never stopped," he said quietly, though the truth was more complicated than that. Another page revealed names, half legible, some crossed out. There were initials he recognized, executives he'd once trusted, deals he thought were clean. But woven through the notes was something more disturbing, references to a program, experimental and off the books. One name kept appearing again and again. Athena Protocol. "What is that?" Lyra asked. Noah shook his head slowly. "Something I heard whispered years ago. Military contractors, cognitive development, testing on children." Her eyes widened. "I was tested when I was little. Machines, games, puzzles. They said I was part of a special school. My mum took me out when she found out they weren't what they claimed to be." He felt sick. "They were tracking you all this time." "No," she said, voice trembling. "They were tracking you. I was just a way in." Noah stood and began pacing. The pieces were assembling. His wife's sudden disappearance, the silence from authorities, the blocked inquiries. They hadn't run from him. They were protecting him, or trying to. Lyra opened to the last page. "She wrote something for you," she said. In faded ink beneath a pressed flower were 6 words. "She is more you than me." Noah closed the book, his hand trembling. Then his phone buzzed, an encrypted alert from Samir. Unknown device pinged building's Wi-Fi. Possible breach. Lyra's head snapped up. "They found us." Noah reacted instantly, his voice sharp. "Samir, lockdown protocol, full sweep, no one in or out." The reply was immediate. Samir was already issuing orders, his men moving like shadows through the building. Noah turned to Lyra, who stood frozen, her small body taut with fear. He crouched beside her, placing both hands on her shoulders. "We're okay. They're not going to touch you. Not while I'm here." She nodded, but he could see her trembling. The weight of so many years in hiding had carved fear deep into her reflexes. This wasn't just a moment. It was a return to the world she thought she'd left behind. Noah guided her to the hidden panic room nestled behind a bookshelf in his study, a space few even knew existed. He pressed his fingerprint to the biometric pad, and the false bookshelf clicked open. "Go in. Wait for me." "No," she said firmly. "Not without the journal." He grabbed it off the table, handed it to her. "Keep it close." She stepped inside, eyes wide at the small, sterile room lined with screens and a secure line. As the door sealed behind her, Noah turned back to face whatever was coming. The apartment lights flickered. Noah's phone buzzed again. Samir. Someone breached the service stairwell, unknown how they bypassed access, cameras disabled on 24th floor. They were close. Noah moved fast, pulling a case from under the kitchen island. Inside, a compact pistol and a digital keycard to override every lock in the building. He strapped on a concealed vest, mind racing. He'd spent years keeping his empire secure, building firewalls and literal fortresses, but he'd never imagined needing them for his own child. He took the elevator down one floor, avoiding the compromised 24th. As he stepped into the hall, he caught the faintest sound, a footstep out of rhythm, too soft for a resident. He flattened against the wall. Then he saw him. One of the men from the day before, dressed like a janitor, scanning each door with a handheld device, looking for a signal, for Lyra. Noah raised the gun. "Step away," he said coldly. The man froze. Then, without a word, he lunged. Noah fired once, warning shot. The man dove behind a wall. "You know who I am," Noah shouted. "Walk away, and I won't end you." A voice, calm and disturbingly polite, replied from around the corner. "She doesn't belong to you, Mr. Carrington. She never did. I suggest you leave before I make that permanent." Silence. Then footsteps, retreating. Samir appeared seconds later with 2 more guards. "We've got the stairwell secure. No sign of others." Noah nodded. He was looking for her. He'll be back, with more. They returned to the apartment. The bookshelf door slid open, revealing Lyra sitting cross-legged, journal in her lap, eyes dry but wild. "You saw him?" she asked. "I did." She closed the journal slowly. "That wasn't the man who chased us before." Noah frowned. "Then who was he?" She looked up. Someone worse. For the next hour, the apartment was transformed into a command center. Samir secured the perimeter, installed jammers to block all non-approved signals, and set up live camera feeds from every hallway, elevator shaft, and rooftop access point. Noah moved with methodical calm, his years of executive precision now turned toward survival. Lyra sat on the couch, the journal open beside her, watching it all with a mixture of awe and dread. She wasn't used to safety. Not like this. Not with people who moved to protect her, who followed orders with urgency because her life mattered. For the first time in years, someone else was shielding her from the dark. "Who do you think sent him?" she asked. Noah didn't look up from the blueprints he was scanning. "I don't know, but they're organized, trained, not freelance." "There's more in the journal," she said quietly. "Things she didn't want to write." He looked over. "What do you mean?" Lyra pulled something from inside the binding, a thin slip of microfilm, barely the size of her thumb. "I found this 2 years ago. I didn't know what it was, I just knew it was important." Noah's eyes widened. He took the film, slid it into a digital scanner on his desk. It hummed to life, decoding the tiny images and converting them into files. The screen flickered, then displayed documents marked Top Secret, lines of redacted data, coordinates, names, but the file titles were enough. Athena Protocol, Subject Records, Project Sphinx, Cognitive Extraction Trials, Evaluation, Lyra Elise Carrington, Phase 4. Noah sat down hard. "My God." She came closer, standing beside him. "What does it mean?" He scrolled through. "They weren't just testing you. They were trying to develop you, design something more. More? Enhanced memory retention, accelerated linguistic acquisition, pattern recognition. You're not just gifted, Lyra. They made you that way." Lyra backed away, her hands trembling. "No, my mom said I was born this way. She said it was just me. He looked up at her, pain etched across his face. She was trying to protect you from the truth. I'm not an experiment, she said, voice breaking. I'm a person. I know. He stood, reaching for her. You're my daughter. That's all that matters to me. But Lyra turned from him. It matters to them. They don't see me as a person, just a tool. He clenched his fists. Then we shut them down. All of them. She turned back. You can't fight them. They're in governments, corporations. You fight one head, 3 more grow back. Noah's phone buzzed again. Another alert from Samir. He picked it up. His face paled. Lyra noticed. What is it? He held the screen toward her. It was a video. A live feed from a traffic cam. A man standing outside the gates of her old shelter, holding a sign. It read, "We found her. Tell Carrington to give her back." Lyra's knees gave out. She fell to the floor, eyes wide in horror. They know everything, she whispered, even where I used to dream I was safe. Noah helped Lyra off the floor, but she was barely present, her eyes fixed somewhere far away, her breathing shallow. He guided her to a chair and knelt beside her, gripping her hands. Look at me. You're not alone anymore. I swear they won't touch you. She blinked slowly. They don't care about laws or threats. They've been doing this for decades. They erase people. He glanced back at the image on his phone. The man holding the sign was calm, calculated. A message, not a demand. It wasn't about fear, it was about control. They were letting him know they could reach them whenever they wanted. It was psychological warfare. Samir entered the room, his tone urgent. We traced the feed. It was sent from a secure satellite relay, bounced off 3 countries. Professional. Noah nodded. Get me everything we have on the Athena protocol. Pull strings. Call in favors. I don't care who we have to threaten. Samir paused. You're not going to like what we find. I already don't. He returned to Lyra. I need to know everything now. Every detail you can remember. She wiped her face with her sleeve. After Mom took me from the program, we ran for months. We changed names, cities, even countries. She kept saying she had to find a way to expose them, but nobody listened. The only place she trusted was the journal. She said if anything ever happened to her, the truth had to survive in me. Noah sat beside her. That's why they're after you, not just because of what you are, but what you remember. She looked down. I try not to remember. Some of it's like dreams, blinding lights, voices in other languages, doctors who smiled too much. His stomach turned. What happened to your mother, Lyra? Her face tensed. We were in Athens. She thought we'd lost them. One night she went out to meet someone, said she had proof and a buyer. She never came back. Noah placed a hand over hers. I looked for you, for both of you. I never gave up. I know. Her voice broke. I heard you on the radio once, talking about the search. She made me turn it off. He closed his eyes. She was protecting you from me, from what you didn't know. They sat in silence, the weight of everything between them almost unbearable. Then the door buzzer rang. Noah froze. Samir checked the camera feed. It's a woman, claims she's from the State Department. No appointment, no ID. Stall her, Noah ordered. But Lyra stood, her eyes wide. What does she look like? Samir blinked at the screen. Tall, dark red coat, scarf, late 30s. Lyra's lips parted in a whisper. That's her scarf. Noah turned. What? She ran to the screen. My mum's. That's my mum's scarf. I wrapped it around her the night she disappeared. Noah stared at the monitor. Open the door. Samir hesitated, then pressed the button. The door opened, and the woman stepped inside. Lyra took one look and gasped, Mom! The woman froze just inside the doorway, eyes locking on Lyra. Her face went pale. Shock, disbelief, something deeper buried behind her gaze. Lyra, she whispered, her voice cracking. Lyra took a trembling step forward. It's you. You're alive? Tears welled instantly in the woman's eyes. I'm so sorry, I had no choice. Noah stepped between them, eyes sharp, protective. Who are you? You disappeared for 7 years, left no trace. I buried you. She looked at him now, truly looked, and her expression softened with unbearable sadness. Noah, I never stopped loving you, but if I'd stayed, they would have killed her. I had to make you believe we were dead. He didn't move. You let me grieve. Let me become a ghost. I had to. Her voice cracked again. They threatened you, everyone around us. I thought if I vanished, they'd leave you alone. Lyra pushed past Noah. You told me you were taken. You said they grabbed you. The woman knelt down, clutching her daughter's face. I lied to keep you strong. The truth would have broken you. Lyra's fists clenched. I was broken. Every night I begged for you. Every shadow was a man coming to take me. I almost forgot your face. I never forgot yours, her mother sobbed. Not for a second. Noah stepped back, watching the impossible unfold before him. You knew about the program, about what they did to her. Yes, she said, rising. And I knew exposing them would cost everything. I tried, I failed. So I hid Lyra, made sure she'd grow strong enough to fight if I couldn't. Why now? He demanded. Why show up tonight? Because they're moving faster, she said. They know Lyra's starting to remember. The journal was only part of it. Her mind holds what they need. That's why they've come. Samir entered again, face grave. We just got another hit, same satellite relay, but this time the message was audio, for you. He handed Noah a phone. He pressed play. A cold voice filled the room. You have 12 hours. Surrender the girl, or every person connected to her, past or present, disappears. Static followed. Then silence. Lyra backed into the couch. They know about you, about Samir. Maybe even about Claire. Her mother turned to Noah. They'll burn your life to ash just to get her. Noah set the phone down. Then let's light a fire of our own. Lyra looked up. What do you mean? He looked at both of them, eyes fierce. We don't run anymore. We make them come to us, but this time we control the game. Her mother shook her head. You have no idea who you're up against. Noah smiled grimly. They have no idea who she is. Outside, the snow began to fall again, quiet, relentless, as if the city itself were bracing for a reckoning. And somewhere, in the deep shadows of power, the countdown had already begun. Morning broke over Manhattan with a deceptive calm. The sky was a pale wash of gray, and the city's usual symphony of horns and sirens seemed muffled, as if the storm gathering beneath its surface had muted the world. In Noah's penthouse, however, every second throbbed with tension. Lyra sat at the kitchen island, flanked by her mother and Samir, her small fingers tightening around a glass of water she hadn't touched. Noah stood at the head of the room, whiteboard in front of him, markers in hand, lines already scrawled across a rapidly forming plan. We have 12 hours, he said, voice steady. They want her. They think they have the leverage. But they're wrong. Her mother, Eleanor, crossed her arms tightly. You're underestimating them. I'm not, Noah replied. I know what they're capable of, which is why we're going to use what they want against them. He turned to Lyra. You said the journal isn't the only thing you remember, that they tested you, made you memorize things. She nodded slowly. Symbols, coordinates, numbers. I didn't know what they meant. Samir leaned in. Can you recall them now? I think so. Good, Noah said, because those numbers might be keys, locations of facilities, maybe even evidence caches. We leak just enough to suggest we're going public. They'll panic, and when they move to stop us, we trap them. Eleanor looked uneasy. This isn't just some boardroom deal, Noah. They don't negotiate, they clean up. I know. That's why we're not negotiating. Samir stepped forward. We'll need backup, people outside the system, whistleblowers, hackers, people they can't control. Noah nodded. Call Kai Navarro. He owes me, and he hates these people. He looked to Lyra. We do this your way. You lead us to the truth and we fight for it together. Lyra hesitated. What if I forget something important? You won't, Eleanor said gently. You never forget anything. It's part of your gift. Lyra closed her eyes. Then write this down. 488619 de Grain N 2.3358 de Grains E. Samir's fingers flew across his tablet. That's Paris, near the old Sorbonne. A black site used by French intelligence abandoned years ago. Could have been repurposed. Lyra opened her eyes. That's where I was taken the first time. I remember a red hallway, the smell of iodine, and a woman who never blinked. Samir turned to Noah. This could be where they're holding records, proof of what they did. Then we make Paris our target, Noah said. We create noise in New York, force them to pull resources, then slip in and retrieve whatever they're hiding. Eleanor stepped forward. I'll go with you. Noah raised an eyebrow. You trust me that much? She held his gaze. I trust what you've become. Lyra looked at both of them. Then I'm going too. No, they said in unison. I remember it. I know what to look for. Without me, you're walking blind. Noah sighed. She's right. Eleanor closed her eyes, fighting fear. But in the silence that followed, they all understood. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about justice. And Lyra, small, gifted, hunted, was leading them straight into the heart of the storm. The jet was ready within 2 hours. Noah's personal Gulfstream stood waiting on a private tarmac in New Jersey, engines humming softly in the freezing morning air. Noah boarded first, scanning the interior with restless eyes, making last-minute calls and confirming encrypted channels with Kai Navarro, his contact in Paris. Eleanor followed, her face hard as stone, though her eyes constantly flicked toward Lyra, never leaving her daughter's side. Lyra stepped into the plane last, backpack slung over one shoulder, the journal clutched tightly in her arms. She hadn't spoken much since the decision was made. Her silence wasn't fear, it was focus. As the aircraft lifted into the air, slicing through the overcast skies, Noah sat across from her. Do you remember any other coordinates? Lyra nodded. Some are broken, half a number, half a word. They made me repeat sequences hundreds of times. I didn't understand then, but now... Elena leaned forward. What else? There was a door, Lyra said softly, with a triangle symbol etched into the wall. They never let me near it, but I heard things, machines and people screaming. Samir, seated nearby, turned toward them. Triangle symbol, Athena's control division. That's not just research, that's retention. People who tried to leave. Elena's lips thinned. We need to destroy it. Noah's voice was calm but firm. We get the files first. Then we burn it to the ground. Lyra looked at each of them. We can't run after this. If we show the world what they did, we're targets forever. We're already targets, Noah replied, but we won't be victims. As the jet soared over the Atlantic, Kai Navarro's face appeared on the screen before them. Mid-30s, eyes too tired for his age, a scar down the left side of his jaw. Carrington, Kai said, you sure you want to go through with this? The Sorbonne site's not empty. I've got chatter, heavily secured, rotating guards, unmarked vans. They're gearing up for something. We're not turning back, Noah said. We need a diversion. Kai smirked. You're lucky I hate these bastards as much as you do. I'll trigger a protest 2 blocks south, old school. Tear gas, firecrackers, digital smokescreen, it'll draw attention. Just give us 10 minutes inside, Samir said. Kai nodded. You'll have exactly 10. After that, even I won't be able to stop what's coming. The call ended. Lyra looked out the window where the grey clouds were starting to thin. Do you think I'll remember the exact room? You will, Elena said, her hand gently touching Lyra's. You've already remembered more than I ever hoped. Noah stood. Once we land, we move fast, in and out, no hesitation. Samir opened a case of forged credentials, earcoms, burner phones. Everyone needs to disappear after this. New names, new lives. Lyra turned to Noah. And you? Will you disappear too? He met her gaze, steady and unwavering. Not if I can help it. But as the skyline of Paris appeared in the distance, golden and cold, They all knew nothing after today would ever be the same. Paris greeted them with a dull chill and a sky the color of steel. The jet taxied to a discreet terminal outside the main airport, where a black van awaited them. Kai Navarro stood beside it, hunched in a worn leather coat, eyes darting nervously beneath his hood. He offered a stiff nod as Noah approached. "You weren't kidding," Kai muttered, ushering them into the van. "They've ramped up surveillance around the Sorbonne. Facial recognition drones, radio jammers. This isn't just a lockdown, it's a vault." "We're not here for subtle," Noah replied. "We're here for proof." Kai glanced at Lyra. "That's the girl." Lyra met his gaze without flinching. "I'm not just a girl." Kai gave a low whistle. "Then let's make history." The van wove through the narrow streets of the Latin Quarter, cutting through the skeletons of old Europe and the digital veins of the new. Protesters had already begun to gather near the Place du Panthéon. Kai's people were orchestrating a chaos ballet. Flares, hacked alerts, misinformation flooding the local networks. "We've got about 8 minutes of darkness," Kai said. "That's it. After that, their systems reboot and we're screwed." Samir checked his watch. 8 minutes is more than enough. The van stopped behind a service entrance, shielded from the main square. Lyra took a deep breath and reached for the journal, flipping to a page with a hand-drawn map. "This way," she said. "There's a tunnel under the old archives. It leads straight into the sublevel." They moved fast, Elena and Noah close on either side of Lyra, Samir at point, Kai covering the rear. The tunnel was damp, lined with cracked stone and rusted pipes. Lyra led with uncanny precision, turning left at a fork without hesitation. "How do you remember this?" Elena whispered. "I don't," Lyra replied, "but my body does." They reached a locked steel door. Samir placed a charge and whispered, 3, 2. The soft pop of the explosive barely echoed. Inside, the air changed, cooler, sterile. The walls were no longer stone, but metal and glass, sleek and unmarked. Noah's stomach clenched. This was real. Not a myth, not a conspiracy. A facility buried beneath one of the most respected universities in Europe. "Start copying everything," Noah said, moving to a bank of servers. Kai connected his rig, screens lighting up. "Encrypted, deep layer, military grade." Lyra stepped forward. "I know the pattern." Kai raised an eyebrow. "You're 10. 11, she corrected. "And I remember the algorithm. It's recursive with linguistic substructures." Kai blinked. "What kind of Frankenstein project was this?" Lyra typed, her fingers flying. In seconds, the first folder unlocked. Hundreds of files appeared. Videos, medical reports, names, children's names, some marked deceased, others tagged relocated, status unknown. Elena's face turned white. "These are the missing kids from Athens, Lisbon, Berlin." "They're still running it," Noah said grimly. It never stopped. A timer on Kai's watch beeped. 2 minutes left, he warned. Then came the sound that froze them all, the hiss of the upper security door unlocking. They were no longer alone. "Move!" Noah hissed, grabbing Lyra's arm and pulling her toward the exit tunnel. Kai yanked the hard drive from his rig, clutching it like a lifeline as Samir drew his weapon and covered the hallway. The sterile silence shattered with the echo of heavy boots descending metal stairs. Whoever was coming wasn't hiding. They wanted to be heard. Eleanor pulled Lyra behind her, shielding her instinctively. "There's another way out," she whispered. "Through the old lecture halls. This whole place was built on catacombs." "Lead the way," Noah said, eyes flicking between the hallway and Lyra's pale face. As they sprinted down a side corridor, a mechanical voice echoed through the building in French and English. "Security breach. Level 3 lockdown initiated. Prepare for containment." They reached a metal ladder bolted to the wall, leading up through a narrow shaft. Eleanor began climbing first, Lyra behind her, then Noah. Kai and Samir remained below, guns drawn, waiting until the others were safely through. At the top, Eleanor pried open a rusted grate, revealing a forgotten hallway lined with faded portraits and broken furniture. Dust danced in the shafts of filtered light coming through stained glass windows above. It looked like no one had stepped foot here in years. Lyra crawled out, breathing hard. "This used to be a chapel." Elena nodded. "It's why they kept it off the maps, too sacred to renovate." From below, Kai's voice rang out. "Go. We'll meet you at the fallback point." Noah hesitated. "Kai." "We've done worse for less," Kai said with a grin. "Just get the girl out." Noah grabbed Elena's hand and they ran, Lyra between them. Behind them, the facility erupted in chaos. Alarms blared. The floor trembled with movement, doors slamming shut, the distant crack of gunfire and then silence. The trio emerged through a forgotten archway behind the Sorbonne, the city alive around them. Protesters clashed with riot police just blocks away, perfectly timed chaos giving them cover. A nondescript sedan waited at the curb, engine running, Samir at the wheel. "How?" Noah started. Samir threw a thumb toward the back seat. "Kai's got moves. We split at the next alley." Eleanor slid in, Lyra beside her. "Did we get it?" Noah opened the drive. The files were still there, still whole. "Yes," he said. "We got everything." Lyra stared at the buildings rushing past them. "What do we do now?" Noah's jaw tightened. "We go public. All of it. Names, files, footage." Eleanor nodded. "There's a journalist in Geneva, one we can trust. She's been chasing this story for years. We give her the truth, and she'll light the world on fire." Samir checked the mirror. "We've got company, black SUV, no plates, gaining." Noah's voice was ice. "Drive faster." Lyra gripped her mother's hand. "They won't stop, will they?" "No," Elena said, "but neither will we." The chase was on, and the world was about to learn the name Lyra Elise Carrington. The sedan careened through the streets of Paris, tires shrieking around corners as Samir wove through traffic like a man possessed. The black SUV trailed behind, steady, relentless, gaining with every block. Inside, Lyra clutched the hard drive as though her life depended on it. In many ways, it did. "We're not going to outrun them forever," Samir said, eyes locked on the rearview mirror. "There's a tunnel ahead," Elena said quickly. "Old metro access. If we reach it, we can disappear." Noah nodded. "Take the next left." The car skidded into a narrow side street, scraping against stone walls as the SUV followed close behind. A moment later, they burst into a construction zone, orange netting and scaffolding giving way to a ramp descending beneath the city. "This is it!" Elena shouted. Samir yanked the wheel, sending the sedan down the ramp. The tunnel ahead was dark, the flickering lights casting eerie shadows over graffiti-streaked walls. The SUV followed but had to slow. Its bulk couldn't handle the turns as tightly. "We've got 30 seconds, Samir said. "Then we're boxed in." They stopped near a maintenance hatch embedded in the wall. Elena leapt out, pried it open, revealing a stairwell descending into blackness. "In!" Noah barked. Lyra didn't hesitate. She dropped into the shaft, followed by Elena. Noah turned to Samir. "Go! Lead them away!" Samir grinned. "Wouldn't miss it." Noah vanished into the shaft as Samir roared off, the SUV's tires squealing in pursuit. Inside the tunnel, darkness swallowed them. Lyra clicked on a flashlight, the beam dancing across old stone and rusted pipes. "Where does this lead?" "Catacombs," Elena replied. "They connect to the RER lines. If we reach a public station, we're ghosts." They moved fast, footsteps echoing. Noah stayed at the rear, listening for signs of pursuit. Minutes passed in silence. Then, a faint noise, a whisper of movement behind them. "They're in the tunnels," he said. They picked up the pace. Lyra's breath came in ragged bursts, but she never stopped. She knew they were too close to turn back now. Finally, a metal grate above them. Sunlight. "We're under the Cluny station," Elena whispered. "We're close." Noah climbed up first, forced the grate open, then helped Elena and Lyra through. They emerged into a narrow alley behind the train platforms, where commuters bustled unaware of the war being fought beneath their feet. "I know someone here," Elena said. "She has safe houses." "We just need 10 minutes, Noah nodded. "Then we disappear until it's time." But as they stepped out onto the street, A voice stopped them cold. "Well done," it said. A man leaned against a parked motorcycle. Same one from the video, the sign holder, calm, smiling. "Mr. Carrington, Miss Carrington, and the girl we've all been waiting for." He raised a small device and pressed a button. Immediately, the hard drive in Lyra's hands sparked, sizzled, and went dead. Noah lunged, but the man was already gone, vanished into the crowd. Lyra stared at the ruined drive. Elena's voice was a whisper of dread. It was the only copy. The silence that followed was suffocating. Lyra stood frozen in the middle of the Paris street, the melted plastic of the hard drive still smoking faintly in her hands. Her expression didn't crack, but her knuckles whitened around the ruined device. Elena stared at it as though looking at a dead body. "And Noah?" He looked up at the crowd, then the rooftops, then the alley they'd emerged from. The man was gone, but his message was clear. "Move," he said sharply. "We need shelter. Now." Elena pulled Lyra by the wrist, guiding her down a row of tight alleys. They moved fast, heads down, hearts pounding, the weight of what they'd lost dragging at every step. 10 minutes later, they arrived at a small brasserie near Rue des Écoles. It was closed, metal shutter drawn halfway down, a cardboard sign taped to the door in French. "Livraison temporairement suspendue," temporarily closed for deliveries. Elena tapped a specific pattern on the shutter. A moment later, it lifted halfway, just enough for them to slide beneath. Inside, the lights flickered on. A woman stood behind the counter, mid-40s, lean and serious, with cropped black hair and a long scar down one arm. "Elena," she said, voice low, "you're early." "We've been compromised," Elena replied. "We need to use the basement." The woman gave a curt nod. "Downstairs. You have 1 hour." They moved to the back, through the kitchen, and down a narrow stairwell into a storage space filled with crates of wine, canned goods, and dusty chairs. At the far end, a single table sat beneath a bare bulb. Noah pulled out a chair for Lyra. She sat, still clutching the useless drive. "We had one chance," she whispered. "It's gone." Noah sat across from her. "Not if you remember." She looked up, tears welling but not falling. "You think I can recreate all that? Names, files, locations?" "I think you're the smartest person I've ever met," he said softly. "And I think they fear what's in your head more than any hard drive." She didn't answer. Elena crouched beside her, brushing hair from her eyes. "Lyra, when you were at the facility, do you remember the backups, where they stored the redundancies?" Lyra blinked. There were tapes, not digital. "Analog storage. They said it was unhackable, a place called Vault 7. Samir, now back and breathing hard, stepped into the room. "I heard. I saw the burst on the trackers. That device fried every frequency we had. But I also found something else, Kai's backup system. He had a dead man's switch, files uploaded to a private server in the event he didn't check in." Lyra sat up straighter. "Where?" Samir handed her a piece of paper, a URL scribbled in Kai's messy scrawl. "We just need to get there. And we need to do it before they know it exists." Elena exhaled slowly. "Where is it?" Samir looked grim. "Geneva." The train to Geneva was already boarding when they reached Gare de Lyon. Samir had acquired 3 tickets under false names. Elena, Lyra, and Noah would travel as a family, blending in with the weekday crowd of commuters and students. There was no time for sleep, no time for second-guessing. Every minute they moved, they stayed one step ahead of whoever was watching. Inside the train, Lyra sat by the window, her fingers twitching restlessly in her lap. The light of dawn was bleeding through the clouds, casting pale gold across the French countryside. Elena sat beside her, tense, hands folded tight. Noah stood by the cabin door, watching the hallway for movement. "You okay?" Elena asked gently. "I should have seen it," Lyra murmured. "I should have known he had something, that he'd come for the drive." "You're 11, Elena said. "You're not supposed to carry the weight of the world." Lyra looked at her. "But I do." Noah returned to his seat, his voice low but firm. "We're going to get that server, Kai risked everything to set up that contingency. He knew they'd come for us. Lyra pulled the paper from her pocket again. The URL has a ciphered key. I remember the pattern. Kai used his sister's birth date as a base sequence. Can you decode it? Noah asked. She nodded. I'll need a terminal, not connected. Something offline. We'll find it in Geneva, Elena promised. The train swayed gently, the rhythm of the tracks a soft heartbeat beneath them, but the calm was a lie. Lyra kept glancing at the other passengers. A man reading a paper, a woman watching her phone too intently, two teenagers whispering in rapid German. It could have been innocent, or it could have been surveillance. Noah noticed too. We're not safe here. We make it to Geneva, we disappear, Eleanor said. You know someone there? Noah nodded. A friend, old hacker, goes by Monk. Paranoid as hell, but loyal. If anyone can help us decrypt and retrieve that server, it's him. They rode in silence for a few minutes, the fields turning into hills, then forests. Then Lyra whispered, We're being followed. How do you know? Noah asked quickly. I saw him in Paris, outside the Cluny station, same coat, same eyes. Noah turned his head subtly. A man in his 40s, ordinary build, short-cropped hair, sat 2 rows behind, pretending to scroll through a tablet. But he wasn't reading. His eyes flicked toward them every time he thought no one was looking. Noah's mind raced. If he's alone, we lose him in Lausanne. It's a major transfer point. What if he's not alone? Elena asked. Then we make noise, Samir said, re-entering the cabin. I just planted a fake flash drive in the lavatory. If he's one of them, he won't be able to resist. Lyra smiled faintly. Good move. Minutes later, the man stood and walked straight into the bathroom. Samir waited 10 seconds, then followed. The silence returned. Lyra held her breath. Then came the sound of a scuffle, a thud, and Samir's voice over the intercom. We've got a problem. The conductor's voice echoed over the train's speakers, announcing their approach to Lausanne, but none of the passengers in cabin 17 were listening. Samir reappeared at the door, his shirt wrinkled, a fresh bruise forming across his jaw. He wasn't alone, he said, voice grim. There's a second agent in the next car, dressed as a ticket inspector. The guy I followed had a blade in his coat. He went for it the second I called his bluff. Noah stood. Is he restrained? Unconscious. I zip-tied him to the sink. We've got about 10 minutes before someone checks and finds him. Eleanor was already on her feet. We switched trains in Lausanne. Burn the IDs. We don't go to Geneva directly. We go around. Small towns. Make it harder to follow. Samir nodded. There's a local route through Morges. Slower. Less predictable. Lyra closed her eyes, thinking. They want to stop us from reaching that server. That means whatever's on it is worse than we imagined. We knew it wouldn't be easy, Noah said. We stay ahead. We stay invisible. They moved quickly as the train began to slow. Samir guided them out through the rear, past the galley car, avoiding the agent's backup. They stepped onto the Lausanne platform just as the morning crowd swelled, allowing them to vanish into the current of travelers. Elena tossed the burner phones into a trash bin, along with their fake IDs. A local train to Morges arrived 3 platforms over. They boarded just before the doors shut, hearts still racing. Inside, the train was older, slower, with no onboard Wi-Fi and fewer passengers. A blessing. From Morges, we go on foot to the address Monk gave you, Noah said to Elena. She nodded, pulling a slip of paper from her boot. Rural, north of the lake. He lives off-grid, no digital footprint. Lyra sat again, her knees pulled to her chest. Why would Kai hide something so important in a private server? Why not go straight to the press? Because he knew the press could be compromised, Noah answered. You said it yourself. They erase people, institutions too. Samir turned around in his seat. And Monk doesn't erase, he remembers everything. Outside, the landscape rolled by. Mountains in the distance, vineyards hugging the hills. It should have been beautiful, peaceful, but the air in the cabin stayed taut. Lyra took the paper with the URL and spread it out on the tray table. She began scribbling a series of numbers beside it. If I decode it correctly, this isn't just documents. It's a command string. Something executable. Noah leaned closer. What kind of command? Not sure, but it might trigger a failsafe. Elena's breath caught. A program? Lyra nodded. Something Kai embedded deep. If decrypted right, it sends the files everywhere. Samir whistled. Global detonation. Noah looked out the window. Then we'd better make sure we don't fail. One wrong digit, and we lose the only truth the world might ever get. The train jolted as it began to slow. Next stop, Morgus, and whatever lay waiting beyond the veil of secrecy. The small station at Morgus was quiet, nestled between the lake and the foothills, far removed from the chaos that had trailed them through Paris. They stepped off the train with nothing but their clothes and the slip of paper that held the key to the most dangerous secret on Earth. No one followed, at least not visibly. A biting wind came off Lake Geneva as they moved north, weaving through narrow streets, past vineyards, then onto a dirt road flanked by tall pine trees. The town faded behind them. Ahead, nothing but quiet wilderness. He lives out here? Noah asked, glancing around. By design, Elena said. After the last leak he helped expose, he stopped trusting everyone. It was nearly an hour's walk before they reached it. A small stone cottage nestled into the edge of the forest. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney. A weathered satellite dish sat half-buried behind a woodpile. Solar panels were embedded in the roof, and several motion sensors blinked faintly from trees nearby. Samir stopped first. We're being scanned. I know, Elena replied. He wants to see who we are before opening the door. They waited in tense silence. Then the door creaked open. A man emerged, bearded, wiry, with deep-set eyes that burned with quiet fury. He wore a sweater with holes in the sleeves and boots that looked older than Lyra. Elena, he said simply. She nodded. Monk. His gaze moved to Lyra. You brought the girl. She is the story, Elena replied. He opened the door wider. Then come in, before the satellites realign. Inside, the house was dark, but warm. Monitors lined one wall, most of them dark. In the center of the room, an old IBM terminal hummed quietly, connected to a jerry-rigged power grid. It smelled of tea and solder. Noah stood awkwardly near the entrance while Monk brewed tea. You said you could help us access Kai's failsafe, Noah said. I can, Monk replied. But there's a catch. Lyra stepped forward. The URL is ciphered. I've decoded part of it, but the rest... Kai said you'd know the string. Monk handed her a cup of tea, then turned to a drawer and pulled out a leather-bound notebook. He flipped it open to a page of numbers and symbols. This was Kai's map, a master key that deciphers every passphrase he ever used. Lyra leaned in, her fingers tracing the symbols. These are dialect layers. Persian structure nested in Latin roots. Exactly, Monk said. He built it to confuse even the best AIs. Lyra worked in silence for 10 minutes. Then her fingers paused. I have it. She looked up. But it's not just a server. It's a live command. It sends a package to 5 major networks: Interpol, Reuters, the UN, the Vatican, and something labeled Arcadia. Noah frowned. What's Arcadia? Monk's face darkened. A failsafe inside the protocol itself. If they sense exposure, they trigger it, scrub their trails, wipe identities, kill witnesses. Lyra's hands shook. If I run this, they'll know. Immediately. Noah stepped forward. Then we run it and get out. Fast. But Monk held up a hand. Wait, he said, listening. Outside, dogs were barking. Too late, he whispered. They're already here. Monk moved quickly, shutting down every light, every screen. There's a passage beneath the floor, he said. Old smuggler's route. It'll take you to the edge of the forest. After that, I can't help you. Elena turned to Lyra. Did you save the command string? Lyra nodded, heart pounding. It's in my head. Then that's all we need. Noah pulled back the rug in the center of the room, revealing a hatch embedded in the floorboards. Monk yanked it open, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. Go, he said. I'll hold them off as long as I can. No, Lyra said. Come with us. He smiled sadly. My job was always to stay behind and make noise. I've done this dance before. Voices echoed from outside, shouts in French, the clatter of boots on gravel. Noah went down first, flashlight in hand. Elena followed, then Lyra. Samir remained a moment longer with Monk, handing him a pistol. Buy us 5 minutes. I'll buy you 10, Monk replied, and closed the hatch. The passage was narrow, the air damp and cold. They moved fast, feet echoing on stone. Above, muffled crashes, splintering wood, shouting, then gunfire, 1, 2, 3 sharp cracks, then silence. Monk, Lyra whispered, voice breaking. Eleanor squeezed her shoulder. He knew what he was doing. They emerged into the forest, half a kilometer from the cottage. Smoke already drifted above the trees. No sign of pursuit yet, but they knew it wouldn't last. There's a safe house, Elena said breathlessly. Across the border in Chamonix. We can get there by nightfall. We don't have that long, Noah said. Lyra, how fast can you recreate the code? She looked at him. Give me 10 minutes and a laptop. Samir pulled a tablet from his pack. Air-gapped. You'll have to enter it manually. They ducked into a thicket, shielded by a rock face. Lyra sat cross-legged, hands trembling as she tapped each symbol into the screen. Outside, the wind rustled the leaves. The world was holding its breath. Done. Lyra looked up. I can send it, but once I do, they'll find us. No doubt. Noah looked at Elena. Do we press it now? I don't know if we'll get another chance, she said. The world deserves the truth. Lyra hesitated, finger hovering over the execute command. Then her jaw clenched. If I don't do this, everything Monk died for. Kai, the others. It means nothing. She pressed the button. The screen flashed once, then again. Transmission sent. Nodes active. Noah took a deep breath. In cities across the world, terminals lit up. Interpol receiving encrypted packets, newsrooms blinking with confidential dumps, alarms sounding in quiet offices where secrets had long been safe. Arcadia knew. Lyra stood, shoulders squared. Now we run. But the echo of an approaching helicopter cut through the forest. They turned toward the sound, and a shadow passed overhead. We're not going to make it, Elena whispered. Noah's voice was calm. Yes, we will. Then he pulled out the last tracker, his final move, and pressed a hidden button. Lyra turned to him in shock. What did you just do? He smiled faintly. Called in a favor. The roar of the helicopter thundered above the trees as Lyra, Noah, Elena, and Samir crouched beneath the canopy, hearts pounding in unison. Branches rattled with downdraft, dirt and pine needles swirling in the wind. Lyra clutched the now dormant tablet, the last tool she'd used to shatter a global conspiracy, and possibly sign their death warrants. What kind of favor? Elena hissed, gripping Noah's arm tightly. Noah's eyes never left the sky. An old war debt, one I was told never to use unless I had no choice. From above, a spotlight suddenly sliced through the trees, sweeping the forest floor in wide arcs. We need to move, Samir growled. Now! But before anyone could take a step, a second sound broke through the chaos, a high-pitched mechanical shriek. Then a blur of metal sliced across the helicopter's path. Another aircraft appeared from the east, sleek, black, unmarked. It darted past the first chopper with terrifying precision and in a matter of seconds released an electromagnetic pulse. The pursuing helicopter spun wildly, tail rotor disabled, and crashed in a fiery burst just over the ridge. Lyra's mouth dropped open. What is that? Noah exhaled. A ghost. Technically it doesn't exist, but it's ours. The black aircraft circled once and dropped low. From the undercarriage, a cable lowered. A voice crackled through Samir's earpiece. Confirm payload. Secure extraction team. Samir turned to the others. That's our ride. They ran from the trees, ducking beneath the prop wash. Noah lifted Lyra first, securing her to the harness. She clung to him, eyes wide but determined. One by one they ascended, pulled into the silent belly of the machine. Inside, the noise vanished, sound-proofed walls, glowing panels, a row of soldiers in matte black gear. None bore insignias. One nodded to Noah. Where to? He turned to Lyra. You pick. She hesitated. Anywhere quiet. Elena spoke softly. Switzerland, the eastern valleys. We can hide there. The soldier nodded and disappeared into the cockpit. Noah helped Lyra into a seat. You okay? I think so, she said. But they're not done. No, he agreed. They'll regroup, rebrand, but we bought time, enough to shine a light. Samir opened his tablet, already scanning feeds. All major outlets have the files. Interpol's confirmed the documents. The Vatican issued a statement of condemnation. Arcadia's front companies are collapsing. Lyra looked at the screen. One headline blared, Child Cognitive Experiments Exposed, Global Scandal Unfolds. Tears filled her eyes. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. Elena pulled her close, pressing her cheek to Lyra's hair. You were the spark. All of this started with you. Noah leaned back, exhausted. Now we protect her and make sure they never rebuild. Samir glanced at the darkened window. And if they do? Noah smiled grimly. Then we remind them what happens when they try to play God. The jet turned east, toward the mountains. But deep in a server farm somewhere, a screen flickered to life. The file labeled Phoenix began decrypting. Snow fell silently over the chalet nestled in the Swiss Alps. Days had passed since the transmission. The world outside was reeling from the revelations, from headlines that now echoed across every media outlet in every language. Government scrambled, agencies disavowed, and survivors from other Athena experiments began to come forward, each story more harrowing than the last. The world was waking up. But inside the wooden walls of the secluded cabin, it was strangely quiet. Lyra sat by the fire, a blanket draped over her shoulders, staring into the flames. The glow painted her face in gold and shadow, flickering like the thoughts spinning behind her eyes. A mug of tea rested on the floor beside her, untouched. Elena sat nearby, flipping through a newspaper, though her attention never left her daughter. She watched the way Lyra's fingers moved, tapping rhythms, patterns, her way of thinking, remembering. Are you sleeping? Elena asked softly. Some, Lyra replied. Not really. Nightmares? Lyra nodded, barely. They talk to me. The ones from the facility. Kids I never met. But I remember them. Their names, their screams, like they're still inside me. Elena rose, crossed the room and knelt beside her. They put too much weight on you. But it's over now. Lyra shook her head. Not over. Just quieter, like the eye of a storm. Upstairs, Noah stood on the balcony, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, he said into the receiver. She's stable. No sign of trackers. We've rotated comms twice. The voice on the other end was sharp. Arcadia isn't dead. The Phoenix file surfaced. They're rebuilding under a new shell. Noah's jaw clenched. How much do they have? We're not sure, but it's not just data. It's DNA, samples, models, plans. They may be trying to restart the program using synthetic pathways. What's the source? Zurich, a new biotech shell. Same structure, different name. Noah ended the call and walked back downstairs. Elena looked up as he entered. You heard? He nodded. They're trying again. Different front. Same darkness. Lyra didn't react. She just stared into the fire. I thought exposing them would end it, she said softly. I thought truth was enough. Noah sat across from her. Sometimes truth isn't the end, it's the beginning. Samir entered through the front door, dusting snow off his coat. They sent another drone over the ridge, scouting pattern, probably looking for residual signatures. We'll relocate by morning, Noah said. Go east. Hungary, maybe. Or the Carpathians. Elena sighed. We can't run forever. No, Noah replied, but we can make it harder for them to follow. Lyra finally looked up. We stop hiding. Elena turned to her. What do you mean? We stop reacting, we fight back, but not with guns, with information. Noah frowned. They'll come for you. They already have, she said. Let them come again. This time we won't be the ones running. The fire cracked louder. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, and far away in a lab bathed in cold white light, a new subject opened her eyes for the first time. Snowstorm winds lashed against the chalet windows, as if nature itself were warning them of what lay ahead. Inside, the mood had shifted. No longer just a refuge, the cabin had become a war room. Maps covered the dining table. Cables ran across the floor. A single monitor displayed lines of code and encrypted messages. The quiet was gone, replaced by a pulse of urgency. Lyra stood at the center of it all, no longer hidden, no longer shrinking. Her posture had changed, shoulders squared, voice steady. She read every file Samir decrypted, analyzed every ping from the surveillance network Monk had helped them link to before his death. They're not just rebuilding, she said, pointing to a line of coordinates. They're expanding. This node here, it wasn't active before, it's new. Underground, near Zurich. Noah leaned over her shoulder. A second site? Maybe a cloning facility, Samir offered. That Phoenix file mentioned synthetic neuroimprinting. If they crack that, they don't need the original children anymore. They just need a blueprint, Eleanor said quietly, and Lyra is the original blueprint. Lyra didn't flinch. Then let's give them something else. Let's corrupt the pattern. Everyone turned to her. We feed them a virus, she continued. Not a computer virus, a memory virus. False data, planted deep in their system. If they use it to create another version of me, it'll fail. Samir blinked. That's genius, dangerous, but genius. Noah crossed his arms. Do we even know how to build something like that? I do, Lyra said. Silence stretched for a long beat. Monk started working on a mental dissonance algorithm, she added. He called it Obsidian. He said it could fake cognitive imprints, create false memory paths so deep, even neural scans couldn't tell the difference. Samir was already moving to the terminal. We'll need processing power, a lot of it. I'll write the map, Lyra said. You just give me a canvas. Eleanor approached her. This could take weeks. They're already accelerating. Are you sure? Lyra turned to her mother, her eyes clearer than they'd been in months. If I don't do this, they'll use me to hurt others. Again. Noah met Elena's eyes. We back her, whatever it takes. The next days blurred, cold days and long nights filled with code, encryption keys, sleep stolen in hours, food eaten on the run. Samir's hands trembled from overwork. Elena barely left Lyra's side. Noah coordinated false trails, sent decoys through border checkpoints, anything to buy time. Finally, Lyra emerged from the back room holding a drive. It's ready. They gathered around as she plugged it into the terminal. If they plug this into their core system, she said, it won't shut them down. It'll trick them into building ghosts. Versions of me that don't work. That self-destruct under their tests. Samir leaned back. It's not just sabotage. It's poetic justice. Noah looked at the blinking cursor. Where do we plant it? Lyra answered without hesitation. In Zurich, at the new lab. We take it there ourselves. A silence fell, and then the plan began. Zurich at night gleamed like a machine pretending to be a city, precise, cold, immaculate. Snow dusted the rooftops, and the air buzzed with the hum of electricity and silent surveillance. Noah, Eleanor, Lyra, and Samir emerged from the shadows near the outskirts, dressed like ordinary citizens. Their faces were different now, subtly altered by tech Monk had left behind, facial blurs, micro-disguises that fooled cameras for precisely 90 minutes. That's all they needed. The target was nestled inside an innocuous corporate park, Officially, it was the headquarters of a biotech research firm called Neuroprax. Unofficially, it was Arcadia Reborn, a new epicenter of engineered genius and synthetic control. Samir adjusted his coat. Security is tighter than anything we've seen. Heat sensors, retina scans, biometric locks. We're not breaking in, Lyra said. We're walking in. Noah glanced at her. Come again? She held up a tablet displaying an access code and personnel badge. Monk wasn't just paranoid, he had eyes inside. One of the early engineers fed him credentials before they disappeared. Samir whistled. You sure they're still valid? Lyra looked at him. Only one way to find out. They moved fast, entering through a service entrance during a scheduled maintenance cycle. Elena walked ahead, badge in hand, her gait confident, unchallenged. Noah and Samir followed, flanking Lyra like guards. No alarms, no resistance. It felt too easy. Until they reached the core. Inside, the lab pulsed with artificial light. Glass walls, rows of pods. Each one housed a childlike figure, suspended in fluid, unmoving. Some looked eerily familiar. One had Lyra's eyes. Elena gasped. They already started replication. Lyra stepped closer, fury in her expression. They copied me, without a soul, without consent. A voice echoed from behind them. I warned them, it said, that the original would find her way back. A woman stepped into view, dressed in a sterile lab coat, clipboard in hand. She looked no older than 40, but her eyes were ancient, sharp, knowing, unforgiving. Dr. Kalin, Noah said, you're alive. She smiled faintly. Arcadia doesn't kill its architects. It buries them in new names. Lyra faced her, holding the drive in her palm. I want you to see what happens when you try to steal a person. Doctor. Kalin's eyes narrowed. You can't stop this. Genius like yours doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the future. No, Lyra said. It belongs to me, and I just rewrote it. She shoved the drive into the primary interface. For a moment, the room went silent. Then, screens flickered, data scrambled, alerts blared. In every pod, the cloned versions of Lyra twitched violently. Lights blinked red. Emergency override, Kalin screamed. But it was too late. Every replication began to degrade, physically, neurologically. One by one, systems failed, pods cracked, machines sparked. You built your legacy on a stolen mind, Lyra said. I just took it back. Kalin lunged toward the console, but Samir intercepted her, pinning her to the wall. Noah grabbed the tablet. Wipe everything. Leave nothing. The system confirmed, complete purge initiated. And with that, Arcadia's last dream crumbled into ashes. The fire alarm screamed as the purge reached its peak. Sparks flew from overhead conduits, and the pods began to collapse inward, one after another, their contents dissolving into inert fluid. Lyra stood at the center of the chaos, bathed in the flickering red glow of emergency lights, watching the empire built on her stolen potential fall apart. Samir held Dr. Kalin against the wall, but her expression wasn't fear. It was fury. You think this ends it? She spat. This is a delay. They'll rebuild again. There's always someone willing to pay for genius. Lyra stepped closer. Then let them. But it won't be me they get next time. I won't be a blueprint. I'll be the firewall. Dr. Kalin sneered. You're still just a child. No, Noah said, stepping beside Lyra. She's the reason your machine is dying. She's the end of your algorithm. Elena joined them. And you're going to answer for everything. Samir tossed Kalin to the floor as automated shutters began to seal the facility. Time to move. We've got 2 minutes before lockdown. They ran, through burning corridors, past melting equipment and screaming klaxons. Every step echoed like a final judgment. At the far end of the corridor, the exit hatch began to close. Noah shoved Lyra forward. Go! She slipped through, then Elena, then Samir. Noah dived last, clearing the threshold as the hatch slammed shut behind him. Outside, the night air hit like ice. Sirens faded into the distance. Smoke rose behind them, swallowed by the darkness. They didn't stop running until they reached the safe van parked a kilometer out. Once inside, silence settled over them, thick and heavy. Lyra exhaled slowly. It's gone. Noah nodded. Burned. Scrubbed. Samir looked out the window. Interpol's going to want Kaylin. I tagged her with a signal, Lyra said. They'll find her. She won't disappear. Eleanor turned in her seat. Are you all right? Lyra nodded. No more copies, no more experiments. I finally feel free. They drove in silence toward the border, the snow falling again, blanketing the world in quiet absolution. In the days that followed, the fallout was immense. Global headlines screamed of crimes against humanity, of governments complicit in experiments long thought impossible. Protests surged, resignations erupted like aftershocks. And in the shadows, one by one, the remaining architects of Arcadia vanished. Some arrested, others simply gone. But Lyra stayed hidden. A month later, she sat at a desk in a sunlit room in the mountains, staring at a fresh notebook. She flipped it open, drew a symbol in the center of the page. Not the triangle, but a circle. Whole. Complete. Noah watched from the doorway. What are you writing? A new language, she said. One no one else can decode. Just for me. He smiled. You earned that. She looked up. What if they come back? Then we'll be ready. Outside, Eleanor was planting a garden. Samir worked on the generator. The world turned on, a little cleaner, a little more awake. And Lyra Carrington, was no longer a secret. She was the end of the beginning, and the future finally was hers.